At Depaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. What's your dream? A trip? A new home? Or maybe it's a green electric bass guitar. No matter the goal, we're here to help you create a plan that helps you achieve it. Share your dreams with us, and we'll work with you to turn them into reality. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that Depaco can help you be well.
All things Hawkeyes. Your all-access pass from the sidelines to the postgame. Iowa's News Now Sports presents Eye on the Hawks. Sponsored by Depaco Community Credit Union and Pin Seekers.
And we are 24 days out, Niall Kinnick days away from the start of the 2025 Hawkeye football season, which means it's time to make big deals out of 12-second clips on social media and look ahead to Kids Day scrimmage. Welcome to Eye on the Hawks, brought to you by Depaco and Pin Seekers. Mitch Fick, Owen Sebring, and Mike Howell here on a Wednesday afternoon. It does say on the sign from the Depaco Credit Union studio. It's more like from the hallway and studio space adjacent to what will eventually be the Depaco Credit Union studio. We're still working on that. Our engineering team doing a heck of a job, as we told you last time out. We've got the new studio space coming in with Depaco there. So excited about that. And Mike, I think they said chairs are next.
Yeah, we're going to order some chairs apparently, and desks should be here soon. So I'm thinking our third episode of the season will probably be in there.
Nice. Good stuff. Exciting time here. Of course, thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening, we appreciate that as well. You can always follow us at Eye on the Hawks on X, or go to the Iowa News Now YouTube channel or Instagram page. You get all your reels there, and we've got plenty of YouTube content from Pin Seekers. You've been having some conversations with some Hawks the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Mike's done a great job of producing these and putting them out with the subtitles and everything, but we've got conversations up right now with Hayden Large, with Drew Stevens, and with Caden Weegan. And
Graves airs tomorrow at noon.
Okay, we've got Aaron Graves coming tomorrow. But yeah, I really do encourage people to go online and find those clips either on X or on YouTube, because they really are great, like eye-opening glimpses into what these people's lives are like. We have such a limited exposure to these players in the space of either post-game interviews or just Tuesday afternoon interviews where we're talking to them with cameras and microphones all on their faces. And so getting them out into their element at a place like Pin Seekers really helps like them open up a lot more. And, you know, I told Mike I went into these interviews thinking, gosh, it might be tough to get like 10 minutes out of these guys, but we talked for like 25 minutes, and I'm not even like halfway through my questions. Like, just couldn't get them to shut up. It was great.
Nothing exposes the human condition like golf. That'll lay it bare, certainly. Of course, we've got a busy August, and we'll get a little bit of a preview of those Pin Seekers conversations in a bit. But we're going to tee it off with Pin Seekers to start this whole thing and just give you a rundown, to use some business and industry lingo, of what our August looks like. So you got your Wednesday preview episode of the Kids Scrimmage right now that you're listening to. On Sunday morning, we'll do a reaction podcast to the Kids Day Scrimmage, just what we saw. We'll get you some fresh highlights. I'm not sure what kind of interviews we'll get. I'm trying to remember if you've got Media Day on Friday down in Iowa City, where we talk to all the players. You do all your fun, like, second week of August Q&As with them. I feel like we just talked to Kirk after the fall scrimmage, so we might try to weave in some sound from Friday, but you'll hear from Kirk immediately after the spring scrimmage during that Sunday recap podcast, and we'll get that up on YouTube as well. Wednesday, August 20th, we'll do our season preview. That'll be the game-by-game stuff, make our predictions for MVPs, breakouts, bold predictions, all that good stuff. That'll be a fun one. And then Wednesday, the 27th, a week after that season preview, we're in game week, and we'll look ahead to Albany and going under the lights at Kinnick to kick things off in 2025. So it's going to be a busy August, because you've got 2 days for high school football practices, all sorts of stuff going on, but wouldn't have it any other way this time of year.
That's right. Yeah, we've got 2 days getting. My texts have been blowing up with coaches trying to get those things set up. So we've got plenty coming on the airwaves.
When does high school football practice start? That starts in a little bit, doesn't it?
What's that?
High school football practice?
Yeah, officially practice can't start until this coming next Monday. This week, I was talking to James Allen at the University of Iowa today about this, but this week they can do camps, like unofficial camps, where these kids, like, they do, I think, have to pay to take part in these camps, but they go there and, I think they can kind of serve like practice just without the helmets and pads and stuff, but unofficially in that capacity. And then next week, high school kids get it fired up.
We should, are we able to reveal what the situation that brought you into James Allen's orbit today?
Yeah, we're going to actually, I didn't put it on the schedule, but Owen talked with Iowa men's basketball coach Ben McCollum today. at Carver, I believe, right? And we're going to put that out as a
Carver.
podcast and on YouTube next week.
Yeah. Interesting to talk to him. I know Ben's been doing interviews with everybody under the sun. I even talked to James about that, and he's like, yeah, he loves talking to people, and it's a very different type of mentality from the past with the Hawkeye men's basketball coach. But yeah, he wants to talk to every media person. He wants to talk to every fan. He said that before he did an interview with Depaco and Doctorman recently, that he just, as he was waiting for them, he was, just going around shaking every single fan's hands. And he's like, this is a good chance to meet people. And hopefully if I'm not winning games right away, then it gives me a little bit of grace. At least they like me for a little while.
A little goodwill.
If the success on the court isn't as immediate as we want. So
I did notice at his introductory presser, and we'll get back to football stuff here in a bit, I was behind him before he went up to the podium, and he had his notes out, and he had circled on his notes, growing the program. And I feel like that's been his absolute number one priority in the summer, aside from just like growing his team.
Yeah.
It's just getting out there and talking to Hawkeye fans. He's a Hawkeye fan, and I think he just likes talking ball and spreading the good news of the black and gold. So it's been fun to see, and it'll be basketball season before we know it. That's coming up right now. But let's get a quick preview before we get into the Kids Day preview. A little bit of what Owen's been doing at Pin Seekers with this quick little snippet from this conversation.
I'm going to set this up real quick because without context, it probably doesn't make much sense. This is I got like a minute 10 clip. This is right after you're talking about Last Chance U. Caden Weegan played at Iowa Western, and he said that they could have been on it one of his years, but the coach declined. And this is you asking him, I think, about any cool stories.
Okay, any good stories there that you can share?
I don't know. Not when I was there, but this year, I don't know. I'm probably not supposed to share this, but I will anyway. It's the head coach told me at my awards big when he said that there was a fist fight in the locker room at halftime, and that's just like the TV show that you saw. There's fighting all the time, and they were winning. I think too in the national championship at halftime, and coach kind of said, yeah, after that point, you kind of knew. They ended up losing the game, which I wonder why. But it's just, I don't know. You'll meet some interesting characters there,
but it is a very different world than it sounds like from what you guys have at Iowa or at Power 5 school.
Yeah. And another funny story, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks left in the semester, and the coach had a team meeting, and was this just out of the blue team meeting? And he's like, there's 8 guys on the team who have yet to log into a class, and there's 2 weeks left of the semester. And we're like, I don't think they're going to pass this semester.
Last Chance U at Iowa Western. We'll take it for stuff like that. Iowa Western's been on there as an opponent on a couple seasons. Mekhi Sargent, who came to Iowa and had a nice little career there for the Hawkeyes. He was, I think, in season 3 or 4, I forget what it was, but it was like the season opener for that team, and he just ran all over him. And I think it had a couple receptions, had a touchdown catch, and then came to Iowa City and did really well. But yeah, those are fun conversations that you had with those guys.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, I would have loved. I was obsessed with Last Chance U for a while, and so would have loved to see Iowa Western on there. Scott Strohmeyer is their coach, and he's been the coach since their inaugural season back in 2009, and just didn't want any extra drama. I really thought, I was like, oh, maybe Iowa Western's a place where you just don't have as much drama there as you do at like Independence or down at Missouri or Mississippi Western or Northwest or whatever that college was called, but. Now, sounds like Caden Weegan, he's got some tea to spill about Iowa Western football.
Oh, boy. Well, we're looking for some tea coming out of Kids Day on Saturday. Our first look at the fall edition of the 2025 Hawkeyes. So we're going to go position by position of what we're looking for. And, of course, maybe the biggest storyline, not maybe, it is the biggest storyline going into this one. Mark Gronowski in pads, throwing the football, and they dropped this video on social media today. And the dialogue and comments already of just watching Mark Gronowski roll right and hit the aforementioned Caden Weegan, a little toe tap there, DJ Holland coverage, but just folks saying it's we haven't had this since Bethard. Like, we haven't had somebody that can roll to the right and throw, and I don't know if that's true. I mean, Cade could move a little bit when he was healthy. Nate Stanley was larger, but could definitely get around. I mean, 7 yards on a QB sneak. We took it from Nate Stanley there, number 4. But, folks are freaking out about Mark Gronowski's arm right there, and it was good to see, and certainly the number one storyline going into Saturday.
Genuinely, do you guys, I don't know if you recall your mentality 2 years ago, but do you feel a lot different, a lot better about Mark Gronowski than you did about Cade McNamara when he was coming into camp a couple of years ago?
Yes.
I think I do now, but like I think at the time, I think people thought Cade, or fans thought Cade was what Mark is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like I think coming in, you had a big name, a quarterback coming from a big name, a school like Michigan, who when you kind of peel back the curtains, it's like, oh, he had a lot of talent, and so did Mark at South Dakota State. But I think he has a little more skill set, obviously, with his feet. It's hard to say though, because I remember I was super excited for Cade.
Yeah.
But then after the first few weeks, that kind of dropped.
Right.
You know, so I do think it's a little different.
Why do you say yes so quickly too?
And Cade was hurt. I mean, we all saw that in the scrimmage where he did his quad and things were just sideways the rest of the way. Cade McNamara, 2021, was key in being the guy that kind of kept the trains running on time, right? He was a big part of that Michigan team that won the Big Ten, beat Iowa, and went to the playoff. And by the next year, J.J. McCarthy had kind of pulled even, moved ahead. He went and had surgery, and things moved on from there, and Cade's time in Ann Arbor ended. Mark Gronowski is the straw that stirred the drink in Brookings, had some talent there, but he's FCS Player of the Year, won 2 national titles. He is, you could argue, the number one reason South Dakota State has been at the top of the heap. Cade was a major part of it and had a great 2021 season, and boy, some of those games he had in 2020, that Rutgers game, go watch that tape. He was out of his mind and had a real nice game against Illinois State to open up last year. Mark Gronowski has the best resume resume, numbers, however you want to say it, of any quarterback that's been in the Iowa room there. Right up there with Chuck Long.
Sure.
I mean, Chuck Long played a lot of football, runner-up for the Heisman, he's on Mount Rushmore. Mark Gronowski's got
Before they were a Hawkeye, or in general?
Anybody who's been in that room playing quarterback for Iowa. Mark Gronowski, I would put him right up there alongside Chuck Long. He's 55, he'll be at 56 career starts against Albany. He's 49-6. He will be, unless Iowa just has a season they haven't had since Kirk first started, he will end his career as the winningest quarterback in the history of college football. I do think you have to factor in the level of play, though. Sure. But
because,
he wins.
If you're passing over Banks, Stanzi, Tate,
Yeah, and hey, I'm a Ricky guy. Yeah. Love Ricky. Love CJ. Love Brad. Brad had his one big year. CJ was a 2-year starter. Ricky had 3 years and maybe has the best on-field Hawkeye resume of anybody over the last 15, 20 years. Mark Gronowski, though, just what he brings in that room is unparalleled. And I think he is just such a top quality player in what he did at the FCS level. Sure, nobody else has 2,000 snaps. Nobody else has played 55 games. I mean, he'll end college as, I think Bo Nix holds the record right now of most games played at quarterback. He has all the experience in the world. So maybe I'm putting more stock in that than we normally would. Then you look at his numbers too, and the guy's scored a bunch of touchdowns, and he's thrown for yards, and he's run for yards, and he's been a leader. It's hard not to get really excited about that. More excited than we even were for Cade. And it was just great. Cade's been there. He's been to the top of the heap. He's played in big games and had success. And again, things just kept going sideways and sideways. But yeah, maybe I'm putting too many chips in the middle on Mark Gronowski. Man, I'm almost perturbed at why the rest of the country hasn't made a big deal. Like any other program feels like, I think it's that Iowa slight maybe.
Yeah.
Of any other program.
I don't know if it's a slight or if it's just, the facts.
Yeah, sure. But any other program brings in a 2-time national champion, a former player of the year. Fernando Mendoza goes from Cal to Indiana, and people are like, Fernando Mendoza's a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the Big Ten. And he might be. But Mark Gronowski's not on some of those lists. And you're like, how?
I will say he's on, I saw The Athletic with Scott Docterman released a list of kind of Heisman level favorites, kind of 4 different tiers of 10 different guys. So Mark Gronowski, I think he had in the 4th tier. So if you want to put him in the 40th range of Heisman potential candidates or guys to watch prior to the season. So maybe Docterman's close enough to the situation that he really lobbied for Mark to be in there. And I think the only reason why maybe people are not as excited as they could be is because of McNamara fatigue, honestly, is because I think a lot of people felt that same way for Cade coming in. And so they're like, okay, we would like to at least see one game out there for Gronowski before we really start pushing our chips in on this guy. He seems like he's got the skill set for sure. He's got the resume. He's got the mentality. He's brilliant. The coaches always talk about just his intelligence, and he seems like he's got a great personality, and guys really rally around him. So, as long as he produces something on the field, I think people will start to at least get over their McNamara fatigue.
Yeah, and you guys touched on it. There is kind of a little bit of and this has nothing to do with Mark as a football player or himself. I'm not going to fall for this again. Because I feel like I've been excited every year coming in to an Iowa football season, and then last year they had the 130th passing attack in the country. The year before it was about the same. So not to say that this year won't be different, because I do think, and we'll get to the receivers in a little bit, that stable is a lot healthier than it has been. There's okay, this is the 4th year in a row Iowa's supposed to fix their offense, which I think that's oversimplifying it, because, second year of an offensive coordinator, last year was the first. But there is that, notion of, I'll believe it when I see it kind of deal. But I do think it's different. And again, none of the players have anything to do with that notion. It's just, I need to see it first, kind of deal.
Yeah, and I'm not saying Mark's going to throw for 3,000 yards because he's never done that, or he's going to do that statistically. Just how do you not see? It's the biggest data.
He's accomplished. He's very accomplished.
He's the most accomplished quarterback, and maybe that's the way I should say it, is that he's the most accomplished quarterback that's ever been in that room. Right up there with Chuck, I would say, just because of the amount of football he's played and the success he's had in that amount, that it's tough to not be why would you think otherwise? I guess that would be my thought. I compared it a little bit to Max Brosmer going into Minnesota. Max Brosmer led FCS in passing at New Hampshire, then goes to Minnesota. Took him a couple games. I mean, even by the time they were playing Iowa and getting to the Big Ten, he was still kind of finding his feet. That opener against North Carolina, I think he only completed 50% of his passes. But by the time Minnesota got later in the year, I mean, they were right there on the cusp of winning the Big House, if it wasn't for a offsides ruling on a kickoff, and he was a big reason why. And they played toe-to-toe with Penn State. So that can translate. I don't know if it's just the slight on, well, he's jumping up into the Power 4, and that's probably worth saying something. But man, for me, it's tough not to watch his film and see everything he's done and go, why not at Iowa too? And teaming up in a second year of Tim's offense, and we've heard about the receivers being excited. It's all right, we got to see it, but man, it looks bright so far. We'll see.
Yeah, and there's some too, I watched that South Dakota State, Oklahoma State game last year where they got beat by a couple scores, and South Dakota State did lose a lot of talent from the previous year. But then you go back and when you look at the end of the season, at that point, I think the Cowboys were ranked. Oklahoma State won 2 games, I think they quit at the end of the year, it was more kind of that deal.
That's a different podcast, yeah.
That's a different podcast, yeah. So there is all right, here's what you did against Power 5, but then they played Iowa tough, in his, sophomore year? So there is a lot of nuance on this discussion of how an FCS quarterback does jump up. Some can do it, some can't. So that's one of the main factors I'm really excited to see after the first few weeks.
Yeah.
All right, well, not the only new quarterback we're going to see out there. Of course, we saw Hank Brown in the spring after Brendan Sullivan transferred. Saw a little bit of Jackson Stratton out there, of course, the end of the regular season as the starter for Iowa. I'm really excited to see Jeremy Hecklinski out of Wake Forest coming up and rejoining Warden Ruggiero after a redshirt campaign. We don't have any video of him, obviously. He's going to wear number 10 out there, but that's a kid that you're setting up for 26. You would think you want him and Hank, and in 25, possibly battling for the backup QB spot for QB2, but, someone can get an edge of going into 26 in the spring there being the guy. So I'm excited to see those guys too.
Yeah, overall, just the entire quarterback room. Jimmy Sullivan has so much hype around him coming in. A lot of people talking about him. And it's all right, how many snaps are we going to see out of Sullivan? Is the depth chart that we saw a couple months ago, it goes kind of Gronowski, Brown, Stratton, Hecklinski, Sullivan. How's that going to be shaken up, and who's going to really rise to the top 3 level? Because as we've seen, of course, the last few years, top 3 matters. There might be 3 quarterbacks playing throughout the year. God forbid anything happens to Mark, but those 3 spots are important.
And that's been an issue the past few years, whether quarterbacks getting injured and Iowa having to deal with that. So I mean, knock on wood that doesn't happen this year, but it's football and it can happen anytime. And I think that when you say top 3 matters, was it Kids Day where Kirk said his top 3 quarterbacks weren't in the room last year? So just kind of give you an insight. And I think we knew this, but Stratton was at 4, and you think Hecklinski and Brown would be 2 and 3. But who plays with the 2s this Saturday? And that's going to be something to watch.
I would imagine Hank gets that nod. I mean, Hank ended the spring as the number 1. It sounds like he was an early enrollee, so he's got, it's Lester's system. You're learning the terminology, you're learning everything that goes with the Shanahan offense, and there's a lot of gears spinning with that. So he would probably, just based on the playbook, and again, he's started a couple games in the SEC for an SEC team, so he's, again, going back to experience. That might lead, but it'll be an interesting battle for QB2 between Brown and Hecklinski. Going to be a fun battle for carries in the backfield, too. No more Caleb Johnson, but you got Kamari Moulton, who's a Doak Award watch list candidate now. You got TJ Washington, who's had a lot of preseason hype. Jazz Patterson always in there. Got guys like Nathan McNeil, who started to flash during the spring. Brevin Dahl, who we've talked about, and Caden has said he's the fastest guy on the team. It's going to be a very interesting battle in the running back room for who can really step up, and maybe it's not somebody that has to be the guy, but who can start taking the reins and really keep this offense going with what it's always going to be, which is a ground level team that can hopefully get that passing game going as well.
Yeah, I love seeing Kamari Moulton get some recognition with the Doak Walker Award watch list. I was a little surprised not to see Jazz Patterson on there, only because, I mean, when it's a watch list, you can add as many names on there basically as you want. Iowa State had 2 guys on there, and Abu Sama and Carson Hansen, so it's like, I feel like Kamari Moulton and Jazz Patterson are about equals coming into the season. I think that they could be splitting carries from a pretty early standpoint. So these are guys that are going to have some recognition coming in. I do always still look to last year when LaShawn Williams was on the Doak Walker Award watch list in the preseason, and then Caleb Johnson had the season that he had. So just never know who's going to emerge.
Yeah, I think that the talk has been that TJ Washington might be the 2, and maybe even.
Yeah,
I think. I mean,
that's what it seems like when you listen to the media or listen to all the the podcasts and the coaches talking. TJ gets a lot more, mentions. It seems.
I would buy stock in TJ Washington today.
Interesting.
I think, and this is more of the season preview. TJ Washington probably won't be your leading rusher. Not going to be your leading receiver. I think he could be top 3 or 4 in total offensive yards, though. He's got something cooking, and he could be a fun one. But Jazz, Jazz is the guy that you won't see him that much for 3 or 4 games, and then he'll pop off and have 8 carries for 70 yards and bowl a couple guys over. It's to Mike's point from a couple years ago. It's almost like watching Caleb Johnson the first couple years. Where you're just like, man, like, dude runs hard. Like, there's got to be a spot for him. But hey, he. In this day and age, Jazz has had every opportunity. If he wanted to go be the guy singularly somewhere else, he could go. That dude loves playing football at Iowa, and I think he's, as much as he loved playing for previous coaches. Why did I just blank on the previous running backs? Liddell Betts, good Lord. Liddell Betts, I think he's loving playing for Omar Young too, and he's got a spot. I mean, there are Jazz Patterson situations where he comes out and he can pop a guy. So that's going to be fun to see what his role could be. And then, boy, you saw at the end of those highlights, if you're watching on YouTube, Nathan McNeil, that kid looks like a Big Ten running back as a freshman. So it'll be interesting to see what his role is. Xavier Williams, Brevin Dahl. I mean, that's a fun room that Omar's got right now.
We'll talk about Brevin Dahl a little bit with special teams, but Caden Weegan reluctantly admitted that Brevin Dahl is the fastest guy on the team right now, and so
in your conversation of Penn Seekers, that was kind of a shock. Well, not shocking because I knew he was fast. There's a lot of fast guys on the field.
They've been talking about him. I mean, obviously a kid in high school in Iowa. Brevin Dahl was a name that was going around, but ever since bowl prep, he's been the guy that was getting a little more run in talk and in coverage and stuff. So that'll be fun. Well, we talked about the wideouts a little bit. A room that's still young, still needs some experience, but boy, there's some thoughts and hopes and expectations of what this room can be. What are we looking for Saturday from the wideout room?
Boy, just about anything. I'd be really. I mean, I just can't make heads or tails of who we will see. It seems like everybody is serviceable. Everybody is good and has shown their talent here and there. But like, there's just nobody here that's been. There was the guy last year. Nobody that like took the lion's share of the carries. Reese Vandersee had his time. Dayton Howard had a nice touchdown catch. Jacob Gill had times where he looked great. 2 years ago, Seth Anderson really had times where he looked good. So I just can't make heads or tails of it. So I'm really curious just who does end up catching a lot of passes on Saturday.
It is interesting because you've got all these guys that seem to, they've got the potential. They've had the flashes, whether it's Gill, who's coming back as the leading receiver. Seth, when he's healthy, he's a burner. Sam Phillips, who you saw a little bit there on the video, coming in from Chattanooga, I think 150 career catches in his time at Chattanooga, and he was banged up at the end of the spring, so we didn't see him in the scrimmage. But again, go watch his tape. That's a kid that he's a burner and can catch passes and really do a lot in an offense that's got motion and is moving around. Reese Vanderzee, buy stock in him already too. He's got a chance to really be a dude on the outside with his frame and his ability, and announced his presence with authority last year. And then you have Jarrett Bowie, and you have Dayton Howard, and you got Caden Weegan, who's looking for more catches, and you saw the toe tap there from Gronowski in the social media video. It is a very intriguing group that, again, we've heard these last couple months that people in the building seem to be cautiously optimistic or excited even about what Judd Budmeier's group is doing in there.
Yeah, that's a group that, when you look at the kind of the depth chart heading into the season, not last year, but the year before and then in the prior years, you were looking at one or two scholarship guys, and I'm looking at, when I put it all on my own depth chart or whatever, I see 9 guys that might be able to actually play. But the thing is, though, like Owen was saying, you kind of want to have a dude like Amir Smith-Marset or a Brandon Smith or a Marvin McNutt.
Marv McNutt.
If you have 1 or 2 dudes, you don't need 9 receivers, But at least you have now, Iowa has a lot of, okay, let's see which one hits. And that's what I kind of want, I'm hoping for, just some big plays and a guy or two that it's okay, Mark likes and connects with this guy, because if you have one of those heading into the season, it can be a huge help. And Reese showed it in the first game in Illinois State. I think it took him a little bit to get to on the higher level, Power 4 conference level teams.
He was banged up too.
He was banged up, but that's the part of the game, it took him a little bit to get going, and it may be a year of lifting weights and working out with this football team can get his body where it needs to be.
Sure. We didn't even talk about KJ Parker. KJ Parker's stock is rising the last few months, and he was if you watch that video with Gronowski and Weegan, kid lining up in the slots, KJ Parker. So he's exciting, coming out of played for Matt Bowen at Immaculate Conception out of the Chicagoland area, and I know they're excited to see what he can do. And we talked to KJ over the summer, and just being the guy at IC, then moving to IC, having to sit back, and again in bowl prep, that was a name that started popping up. Terrence Smith out of Aurora.
I was just going to bring him up.
Yeah,
I was how much does he play as a true freshman?
We'll see. 6'3", 190 coming out of high school. That's a dude you feel like, man, maybe throw in and see what he can do. But that's a super interesting room.
If we want to transition to the next level, pass catcher at tight end, do you got something?
I got one last thing on a receiver, and then we can go on. The 2 things that I was going to say was, third straight year of me saying Caden Weegan needs way more touches on offense. Number 2, I'm intrigued to see who starts week 1, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's just Anderson, Vanderzee, and Gill, just like it was last year. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's the starter is just whoever's out there for the first snap, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a great opportunity for the non-con, particularly the 2 games at Kinnick against Albany and UMass. Just, all right, let's throw in some combos, see who's out there. And hey, again, Tim Lester, happy to have a room full of playmakers. And that's almost every guy we've listed has at least shown, or we've heard about has been showing, big playability. And I think that's what he's looking for in this offense going into 2025. It's just let's find some guys that can take the top off, that can make some big plays, that can use their speed and their abilities to really make this offense open up all the way.
With Weegan, we talked to him about this at Pin Seekers, but with him having played at the junior college level, this is not necessarily Weegan's last season coming up. He could come back and play next year as well. So that tradition of Mike wanting more catches for Weegan could carry on for even one more season after this year. Do we have a 3-time consecutive Jet Award winner?
Time will tell. Time will tell. Leading the clubhouse.
Tight ends, though, I think I know where you're going with this, Owen. Why don't you go?
Well, as we're talking about potential true freshman pass catchers, that was something that I know we saw in the video as well, was Gronowski throwing to Clear Lake grad, a guy who's coming in right away, Thomas Meyer. Will he start to leapfrog up that depth chart? We have some guys in there that the names we know, obviously Addison Ostrenga, Zach Ortworth. Hard to imagine he'd get above those guys, but then there's Hayden Large, who maybe is more of a blocker. We'll see how many passes he catches this year. Michael Burt's next, but will Thomas Meyer come in with enough momentum that he could be maybe the 3rd guy on that depth chart?
Yeah,
one thing that Hayden Large said in your conversation at Penn Seekers when we talked to him was this spring it was the most he had any balls, or the most balls he had thrown to him. I think I don't know if he said in college or just at Iowa, and he's like, I like blocking, but I didn't mind that either.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see how much in Lester's offense they run 12 and run 2 tight ends. Because if you've got Addison and you've got Zach, your third, whether it's Thomas or Hayden or DJ Voname or somebody like that, Mike Burt's been out there a little bit. It'll be interesting to see if the 3 gets a lot of run in non-goal line, red zone type situations. Because you've got all these wide receivers, you're going to run a lot more, maybe 11, where you just got the running back and the tight end and just have 3 wideouts there and go crazy with that. It's as comfortable, I think, as you can be with the tight end group because you've got your top 2 are well represented, have their experience. Still waiting on Zach Ortworth's first touchdown, but I know a lot of folks are maybe expecting him to have a breakout year. But you don't have the absolute star at that position. It feels like that maybe you have in past. You don't have your Laporta. Lachey had that prestige a little bit as well. But it's a group that I think you feel really good about just because of the amount of football they've already played.
As we've seen, we just saw Antonio Gates go into the NFL Hall of Fame. Basketball players can make good tight ends, and that's what Thomas Meyer is. I mean, people forget that kid was a dude on the basketball court. He got Clear Lake all the way to the 3A championship game, almost won it. If it weren't for like a 20-point comeback by their opponent, they would have won that game. Clear Lake is in an area in a class where it's tough to make any deep postseason runs, but Meyer basically by himself brought that team to the championship game. So kid's a really good basketball player. Kid's got hops. Kid's got hands. The basketball to tight end transition works well for him.
Mason Woods also tight end, right?
Yeah,
you playing tight end?
We'll see what
Hayden said that
Mason can do out there. It's intriguing. It's intriguing. They're lining up next to an O-line that brings, we assume, 3 full. What was that? What happened?
Mike was doing this.
I was just gonna say, I think Hayden Large told Owen that Woods is like one of the most athletic people he's ever seen.
Yeah.
Do you remember hearing that? I feel like I watched that in your video.
Could be.
Yeah.
Long jump state champion. But
Yeah, absolutely was. Yeah, you had a great shot of that. I remember that. So offensive line, you got 3 starters coming back. Logan Jones, married on the O-line there. You got him coming back. Jennings Dunker over at right tackle, second-team All-American announced today by Sporting News. You got Bo Stevens at left guard. It sounds like Cade Peepers, your starting right guard, and left tackle. You've got Trevor Lauk, you've got Jack Doetzler, and you got Ferris State transfer Bryce George battling out there. What are we thinking about the O-line coming in? What's George Barnett's room? What are you looking for on Saturday?
It's great, I think. I mean, it maybe is not what it was last year. I really loved last year's Iowa offensive line, and so I think, will take a step back a bit. But they're only growing in confidence and experience. So by the end of the season, I think there'll be something special. But at the beginning of the year, I think they will take their lumps just a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I think they can actually be better than next year if they solve the left tackle spot. You go into it, and Mitch listed it all. You got 4 guys penciled in. Well, I'm sure the coaches aren't saying this, but penciled in as starters, 100%, I think. And then just who's going to be that left tackle? Is it Dotzler? Is it Lauk? Is it the transfer, George? That's the one interesting battle. I will say, when I'm looking, and I'm going to preface this with, I am not like an offensive line recruiting / guru, so I'm looking at the depth, and if 1 or 2 people get injured, then I'm kind of nervous, and I don't know if those left tackles can move around, and those are the backups that you see if that happens, because, I mean, it happens every year almost. Like, people are banged up, miss a game.
Logan
Hopefully
Jones
there's
missed
no...
a lot of time,
Yeah.
Jennings missed time. You don't have, we talked about this in the spring, you don't have Nick DeYoung, you don't have Tyler Ellsbury, you don't have 5th, and in Nick's case, 6th-year guys who have played a ton of ball, who have started at multiple positions on the line. You've got a guy like Mike McClinsky, who's a grad student, but who hasn't played a ton. You've got a lot of young guys that they're hyped up about. Lucas Allgaier, they're buy that stock for 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. You've got Cannon Leonard, who's like 6'9", that they're hyped up about. So you've got these guys that have a lot of potential that they're watching, but it's not proven yet. You don't have that stalwart that you can say, hey, Nick DeYoung, we need you to go start at right guard for a few games, or Tyler, we need you to step in at center, which I think Peep is still listed as the second team center. It was in the spring when there was still a depth chart. So you've got guys that you're cautiously optimistic, that have all the potential in the world, but anybody will tell you, what's potential get you? Fired. Not that anybody's getting fired, but like, hey, until it's something of substance, it's not giving you anything. So that's, to Mike's point, what are those 2s and 3s looking like? As much as we need to figure out left tackle, what's the second team O-line look like? Where's George putting these guys in? Because he's a guy that likes to shuffle them around and figure out where they're working. So that to me is maybe right behind seeing Gronowski and seeing the battle for backup quarterbacks, seeing where that O-line depth is might be as important as anything, because as anybody will tell you, you don't have if you're not winning in the trenches, you might not be winning a lot of football games.
Just looked it up. The backup center in the spring was Cale Winter.
Cale Winter?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so he's, right there, I think he's a sophomore, redshirt sophomore,
Yeah,
maybe
sophomore.
a true sophomore. So yeah, there's a few guys in there that you just, Leighton Jones is a sophomore on that line as well. Josh Janowski's a redshirt freshman. So there, again, you've got bodies, but do you have well-built experience
dudes.
depth? That's what we need to figure out.
Yeah. For me, Logan Jones and Jennings Dunker are like so 100% solid, like just obviously great. Cade Pieper, I feel like we've been hearing and talking about for about a year and a half, and just like haven't seen a ton of him on the field. So it's like, it seems like everybody loves him and the potential's obviously there. Bo Stevens, just haven't seen quite enough of him. Maybe he's got some experience out there, but
Banged up last year too, yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm just like, there are question marks there. A lot of guys to like, just a matter of getting that experience under him.
And then you flip to the defensive line, which you might say is the best group out of all the position groups in Iowa City coming into 2025. You've got Ethan Herkett, you've got Max Llewellyn, you've got Aaron Graves, who not only, along with Herkett, married now, congratulations to them, but extra congratulations to Aaron and his wife, expecting a baby coming up this winter. They just announced that a few days ago, so congrats to number 95. And then you've got Bryce Hawthorne coming in from South Dakota State as a transfer. You've got Jonah Pace coming in from Central Michigan as a transfer. You've got Jeremiah Pittman, who's been out there. Will Hubert's a kid from Nebraska who's been playing a bit and had a fumble recovery late against, I believe it was Washington, or maybe that was the other. Maybe it was Troy, one of those two. How do we feel about the defensive line? Brian Allen, people are waiting to see him really take the reins. Kenneth Merriweather out of Detroit King had a nice half sack in a game last year. What do we think about the D-line? Do we agree? Do you guys think that's the strongest group? Yeah.
Yeah.
Strongest, deepest. I wouldn't know by snaps, I guess, but it seems like most experienced, just like guys who's like, okay, we know all of these guys and we've seen what they have to offer, and you have to like everything. I mean, it seems like is it the north end zone that's safety zone for the Hawkeyes? I mean, that seems like that's going to be a troubling spot for opponents this year.
Almost nervous that Jose Epinesa might have some trouble getting on the field this year. I still think he's a talent. I mean, if he can handle himself, just like his brother did, and he gave some good pass rush snaps as a true freshman, and I would expect that. But I mean, there's a lot of talent on this D line, and it's a huge help considering that you have to replace all three linebackers, and I think the defensive backfield is solid, but you bring in a corner. So I mean, a solid defensive line just helps solve those issues a lot.
You'll say up at Nessa, his storyline is an interesting one. Like I think you've pointed out, his brother, his older brother AJ, started like day one for Iowa.
First career sack in the opener against
Josh Allen.
And
so it's like, could his brother do that now? Could Jose get to that point? But with this amount of experience, it's going to be hard to get there.
Am I misremembering that? Did he start day one? I don't
know if he started, but he played quite a bit.
I thought he was God, he's a Packer, and I can't even remember his name. The pass rusher.
Lucas Van Ness.
Like, he didn't start that one year.
I don't know if he started as a true freshman, but he was out there quite a bit.
He was out there a lot,
yeah.
yes. One of those.
I told you guys, Micah Hyde had his golf outing at Finkbine a few weeks back, and Jose played in it. I think he was the only incoming freshman that was part of that. I, for a second, thought it was AJ. Because there were a lot of alumni there, and I look at him like, man, this kid's, that's Jose. That's not AJ. I mean, that kid looks ready to play Power 4 football rolling out the gate. So, wouldn't be shocked, especially if the cards fall how you hope they do. You're going to get your reserves quite a bit of time against Albany and hopefully UMass as well. So you might see a lot of him out there, and that's what you want as you try to build depth on these lines. Certainly you want to see as much of those reserves as you can before you get into Big Ten play. Well, Mike mentioned the linebacking core. You've got three guys who have played a ton of special teams who have kind of been slated as the next men in Jackson Rexroth, Carson Shire, and Jaden Harrell. You got the talented freshman that redshirted last year in Preston Reese, Cam Buffington, and Derek Weiskopf. You got a kid like Jaden Montgomery, who's been a special teams guy that's maybe lining up the mic as well behind other Jaden. What are our thoughts about what this linebacking core could look like Saturday, and what could it look like as we get through the year?
That's a good question.
Just definitive answers, please.
No, I mean, I think a lot of players, too, when you talk to them, are very confident in Jaden Harold and Carson Shire. Shire, as I say? Shire. I always get tripped up because I look at his name and I'm like,
looks
I don't
like
think
Sherrar.
Yeah, it
and
looks
I've
like
said Sherrar plenty of times, yeah.
And Jackson Rexroth as well. Not to mention the stable of talented linebackers from all across Eastern Iowa that you assume are going to get some snaps, if not this year, then next year. But it's one of those things that you're confident in the Iowa linebacking position, but we got to see it on the field. And I guess talking to Aaron a few weeks ago, Owen, when I was listening to your conversation with him, it seemed like in every interview I've heard from a defensive player, no one's really worried that Jaden Harold's going to be back there calling the plays. I mean, obviously, I don't think it's going to be like a replica of, Jay Higgins, but I think everyone's confident in his skill set. Just got to see it,
Yeah, I mean, he's 5 years in. Right, 4 or 5 years in. Him and Max Llewellyn go back to their days in Urbandale, and that's such a cool thing. Two guys that grew up. Sean, Max's dad, has sent me pictures of them playing youth football together, and that's such a cool storyline. But I'm really interested to see what the 3 redshirt freshmen look like. Those guys we just named, because we've already heard, Reese is setting weight room records already as a freshman. Buff did anything and everything. Weisskopf, same way. I mean, Weisskopf was playing quarterback by the end of his time in the Raiders, right? I mean, these kids, and we've seen Josie Jewell throw out there as a freshman. We've seen James Morris back in the day going in as a freshman. It's not out of the question one of these guys has to step up and fill in and maybe wrangles a spot away from somebody, or just through their play and execution, demands more playing time. So I'm really fascinated to see what those guys look like, along with, the Jaden Montgomerys, the Van Kiekericks, and those other guys filling the depth in at linebacker. Because Seth Wallace always gets the most out of his guys, and I'm interested to see what he can do with this group here when it's such a turnover. When you've got, Jay with the Ravens right now, Nick Jackson goes to the Bucks, and you've just had so much talent the last couple of years, so many reps, so many tackles leaving. Really going to be that might be my third spot behind quarterback and O-line, linebacker. What's the linebacking core look like Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Harold's a guy. It's like he's gotten the awards for the team leader and things like that, academic All Big Ten, those things. But boy, this is going to be his 5th year on the team. He only has 9 tackles in his Hawkeye career. Just has not had the chance to get in there. He's been on the depth chart. He's been the guy who people are saying from the get-go he's going to be the starter. But still, as we talked about some of those guys on the offensive line, he's a guy who does have something to prove at the mic spot. And if things aren't going well, I mean, like you say, we could see a lot of these Eastern Iowa guys in Weisskopf, Buffington, and Reese. Reese is a guy who, it seems like people are talking about like this kid's going to be a dude. Well,
did you see that Athletic, 100 college football freaks? He ranked 50th on it, and did he play special teams last year? I'm not sure. On his profile, it says that he didn't see any game action.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it says he, a 41.4 vertical jump, 1.545 second 10. Just
he's
squat 630. Yeah, he's a
Let me look up what
freak.
his.
If you had to bet though,
says did not see any game action.
He squatted 630.
Yeah, that's insane.
You throw my clean bench and squat together, and I'm not breaking 5 probably at this point.
Yeah.
He's 19 years old. He's squatting 630 and setting the inside linebacker mark at Iowa across the board. It's nuts.
If you had to bet on one player, breaking through this year, out of those 3, would it be Reese or would it be Weisskopf? Or Buffington, I guess.
It's a toss-up because Weisskopf did make the number 2 depth chart early in the spring, and so it's like he's got his name is out there more, but Reese is a guy who seems like more just underground people are talking about. So I'd be more inclined to say Reese. It seems like last year even people were kind of starting to talk about him a little bit, so he's the guy that I'd go with as more of the breakout guy. One thing I mentioned about him, I really don't know how much to ever put into high school stock, what this guy did in high school being special, but all due respect to our friend Tim Lambert and all the folks in Monticello, but Monticello does not have a football history to speak of at all. outside of the Preston Reese years. I mean, he brought that team to the Dome, to the championship. I forget if they made
I think semifinals.
Semis they might have lost, yeah. But like for him to lead that team that has almost zero football tradition to get to them to that point, I mean, that's a team that he carried on his back almost entirely. In Class 3A, I think they played, so it's not like they were small ball. It might have been 2A. I forget.
I think it's 2A.
But nevertheless, like that's a kid who carried a team on his shoulders in high school, and I mean, he's a special kind of athlete.
It's going to be fun to see all that play out. And yeah, I can't think that one of those freshmen doesn't pop a little bit and maybe sets the table for 26, if not outright. Getting a hold on a spot here in 25. The defensive backs, Phil Parker's room. A little bit of change, some familiar faces really stepping into their spots here. Jamari Harris leaves, Sebastian Castro is gone, Quinn Schulte out, but you've got TJ Hall, who sounded like in the spring he's your number one guy, Deshaun Lee, who got his first career pick against Wisconsin last year, Shaheed Barrows, transferring in from South Dakota, where he was coached by former Hawkeye safety Miles Taylor. I know that's going to go a long way in maybe sliding into Phil Parker's room and playing the way that Phil wants his guys to play, proper angles, intensity, and all that. Jalen Watson, number 3, got some shine as a true freshman out there. So this is a very interesting room, and of course you got the safeties with X moving over to the free safety spot. You got Cohen Entringer plugging in at strong safety now. Zach Lutmer's going to be out there maybe in some sort of cash position there, and there's some rotation there. What are our thoughts going into Saturday about the DBs and what you want to see from a room with, again, a lot of familiar faces, but maybe still something to prove from those guys?
Yeah. I mean, this was a unit that was a bit of a letdown last year. I mean, gave up way more big plays than we're used to seeing out of the defensive backs at Iowa. So I think there is a lot that these guys have to prove this season. And Xavier Wampa especially is a guy who's had his name recognition ever since he committed to Iowa out of Southeast Polk and just has not maybe had the production that people would have wanted to see out of him. So he's about to start his senior year. It's like, what can he do? Can this be the guy that people have been talking about for the last 3 years?
Yeah, I'm excited to see Cohen on the field 100% of the time. You know, he's just one of those guys you've been talking about for a few years. I know we got a lot of playing time last year, and he's a stud. But yeah, Owen, no, I agree with you. Does Iowa have a shutdown corner like they have in the past? That remains to be seen. I know Deshaun Lee and TJ Hall are serviceable, but can they take that next step? And does Barrios step in? Like, I don't think you go out and get a cornerback if you don't think that you want competition and that you think you can upgrade on that. So that will be an interesting battle there.
And it's a kid who's picked off Mark Gronowski before. I think it was first or second career under, so it wasn't one of Mark's best throws if you're watching it. But yeah, he's getting in there. I'm interested to see what Alex Moda looks like on the defensive side, moving over from Marion, did anything and everything, started his career at Iowa City as a wide receiver, moved over to DB, and it sounded like he was kind of flashing right away. So interested to see him. Alante Dean was an early enrollee, I believe, out of Florida, true freshman. Saw C.J. Bell running a bit in the spring. And a few other guys out there. Watts McBride, a kid from Cedar Rapids, Washington. He's in his third year in the program, I believe. Ty Hudkins, who transferred in.
I was going to bring him up.
From Purdue, a 6'1" kid from Grand Rapids playing at Forest Hill Central. You know, hey, all the depth in the world, you'll certainly take it. So,
you think he's like the free safety, Iowa free safety of the future? I know he's only a sophomore. I know he's learning all 3 positions.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on where they ultimately want to get him running. But yeah, I think that's. You hope he's a guy that can, come in and make an impact with a year of Big Ten football under his belt. Interested to see, and maybe a couple years down the road, but just talked up Derek Weisskopf, Race Heitman taking over the 30 for Quinn Schulte. He's listed as a DB. I mean, we saw anything and everything from him on the offensive side, mostly for the Raiders, but a guy maybe to watch of, in this time where we're losing walk-ons and that roster's going down, like could Race Heitman be the guy who's one of the last guys to really carry the torch of a walk-on that morphs into something. So we'll see if he gets some run on Saturday. It'd be fun to see him out there and see what the DB room can do. Do we think, who would be your pick if there had to be a number one? We heard about John Nestor last year going into the fall, was a number one guy. He's up at Minnesota now. If you had to say, knowing TJ was the number one in the spring, who your pick at the end of this year, who are we going to say Iowa's number one cornerback is?
Owen, go first.
Pass the buck.
Yeah, I
can go. I only because I like shiny new toys. When you bring in a transfer corner, who got 1 year left, you think that they're going to come in and make a play. I'll go with Barrios. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Jade Barrios, yeah.
I guess I'd say Deshaun Lee, but I've got not much to back it up. This is an area that I don't have much expertise there, and just want to see what they can do coming back after last year. But I guess I'd say Chandler just because he's the guy who I've seen maybe the most out there.
TJ's taken so many lumps. Going back to 2022 against Nebraska, Cooper got hurt. He got thrown in. He got burned. I'll put faith in the comeback story. I think at the end of last year, he was playing really well. That pick he had against Maryland was nuts, and he had a couple big hits in spring ball. You saw him there, just point of attack and those angles and everything that Phil loves. I'm going to say it's him. I think Barros will be a close second. You might end up with two pretty darn good cornerbacks there.
Yeah.
Boy, Iowa will certainly take that. Special teams, set it and forget it. Drew Stevens, Reese Dakin, Caden Weegan, feeling good. Ty Nissen Holden. You've got you got a new long snapper coming in, the kid from BC maybe, but other than that feels like a group that's you're comfortable with. Now it's dangerous to get too comfortable with that stuff, but hey, that's on paper. That's as good a special teams unit as you got anywhere in the country.
Yeah, I tried to get that out of Caden Weegan, asking him about who might be back there on kick returns with him this year. And a couple names he brought up were T.J. Washington and Brevin Dahl. So those are both guys we might see back there. But other than that, yeah, pretty comfortable special teams unit. Obviously, people don't think much about long snapper, and as long as you're not thinking about long snapper, then your long snapper's doing a good job. So as long as we don't have to talk about him too much this year, then I think it's pretty much set in stone that we're pretty good to go on special teams.
2 points on the special teams unit, though. I do think Reese Dakin was what's the word I'm looking for? Inconsistent last year, and I'm excited to see like those punts to see if when he's got a chance to pin them deep, can he do it? He has before, but I just think some of the he wasn't as consistent, obviously, as Torrey Taylor. I'm not saying he should be in his first year, but need to see that leap, that next step taken, and then. Drew Stevens, great kicker, but remember the spring, he missed like 4 or 5 kicks. Let's see this Saturday if I don't expect that to be a trend this season, but it'll be something to watch for when they line up in field goal.
All right. Bryant Worrell is the transfer from Boston College, who I think committed before he even got on campus or had been on campus very quick. I mean, it was swift. And again, when you're trying to replace a guy like Luke Elkin, who was as steady and as stellar as anybody we've seen at Iowa at any position for a good long while. Not something to take for granted there for sure. We kind of already covered the things we're looking forward to at Kids Day. Is there anything else, we've kind of ranked stuff or talked about the things we're really focused on. Anything else off the beaten path that we're looking forward to on Saturday, aside just from being at Kinnick?
Yeah.
Fun.
Just being on this podcast has got me already looking forward to that first game at Kinnick. Just every game at Kinnick is a story in and of itself, and it's kind of a game that's we find a way to still talk about this game 3 years down the road. So what's going to happen against Albany that all right, who's going to make a fourth quarter tackle that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, but it's still a fun thing to talk about when this guy got a safety in the fourth quarter or something, or somebody got a big loose fumble. It's I'm just getting so much anticipation looking forward to that first game in Kinnick.
2 things I'm looking forward to, and I won't get one for another few weeks, is a depth chart.
Yeah.
It'd just be interesting to see where their names are, even though it doesn't matter. The second one is, and we kind of talked about this, but in a more general sense, the new contributors. Sure. I even wrote down Weegan at wide receiver. Do we see more of that? I know I've been being dead horse.
You just copy and paste it from your note from last time?
Terrence Smith, is he going to get any action with the ones and the twos? Nathan McNeil, is he going to get real game carries? And, we talked about all these guys, but just in general, who are the guys that maybe surprise us too, that we're not talking about?
Drew Campbell, Jack's younger brother.
Exactly, yeah.
I wonder, and this might be a season preview question too, over under, we'll do it for Saturday, over and under half a slow mesh play. Do we see a slow mesh play of any kind?
I say under.
Under? You don't think we'll see one? Save that for Penn State.
I think also I was unfamiliar with it until they brought in Ruggiero.
Sure.
But I was looking at it and I was like, man, this is kind of hard for me to decipher what it is because I was new to me.
Anxiety, you're watching, you're just go, 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 go. It's tough to watch, but man, you're it works. We'll talk about that maybe more in the season preview of is there any hint of that in Iowa's offense? Because, boy, it's not a trick play, but tricky if you want to roll it out there once or twice.
Another thing I'm looking forward to is charting the attempts and completions of all the quarterbacks, we can overreact.
I missed the fall scrimmage last year. And man, just the amount of texts and posts I was seeing about Cade went this for this. And you're okay.
I mean, that one kind of held up.
Did he get hurt this time? Hey, but then he rolled out against Illinois State and had a great game, and obviously things went out. But I was just Man, did anybody else, are you tracking who's missing blocks? And some people do, but I'm like, it's a scrimmage. All right, whatever. Just be happy to be in the stadium, guys. Let's just enjoy that. Speaking of things that people take way too seriously, preseason polls. Iowa receiving votes in the coaches poll. This is a time-honored scientific tradition that the coaches definitely fill out themselves, especially in August. Iowa would be 33rd in the coaches poll if it came out today. How much stock do you put in the coaches poll or preseason polls in general?
Well, I mean, I do agree with you that it's there to be mocked, but it also does play an impact in who gets to the playoff. And that's where I think it's kind of a shame, because I think if you have a name brand program, like Michigan's ranked 16th, they had a down year. I think they will be good. Clemson's ranked 4th. They won the ACC, or 4th or 5th. I don't have to pull it up in front of me. But it does matter in the sport if you're trying to get to that next level, which kind of is a disservice, I think.
Sure, definitely.
How much stock do I put in? Are they, obviously there's going to be teams that aren't on it that are going to finish ranked, and there's teams that are going to be ranked too high. I think Florida State was 10th, and they won 2 games last year.
Really?
I should ask it this way: do you think there should be preseason polls?
I say yes. I mean, only because it's it's a starting point. It's something to talk about.
Got to put something in the sportscast.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we need some content here in early August. So, yeah, I say keep rolling them out. Can't have enough preseason polls. It would be an interesting world without them. Just really starting a season from scratch would seem so bizarre. Just thinking nobody's ranked going into week one.
No numbers next to names.
How do we do this?
How does the NFL survive?
Yeah, so I don't know, but it really is It would make sense in this world where there is so much turnover in college football now, where you don't have the guys just coming back, where there's just transfers all over the place. It's a more fitting world that we don't need preseason polls as much, but it's hard to imagine them going away.
In a perfect world, I think there shouldn't be polls till week 3 or 4, right?
Yeah.
So
we throw out the AP and coaches for the most part once the playoff rankings are out, and that's October.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess week 3 or 4 wouldn't be.
They're the jet
sample either.
boosters that fall off into the ocean when you're launching space. I don't know if that's how NASA
Great analogy.
does things.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I mean that's. So it's man, hey, the wild card mixed up Magic 8-Ball world of just playing games for 6 weeks and then okay, here's your rankings. Nobody would get upset about that. It would be a perfect utopia, and it would figure everything out.
People love our history and our ability to say it's the first time since blank that blank happened, and so.
Yeah.
The first week of the season we have Texas versus Ohio State, and I think it's the first time we've ever had a 1 versus 2 in week 1 of the season.
It's true, and I think it's the first time Texas has ever been ranked number 1 in the coaches poll preseason. I think I read that, yeah.
So it's if we just did away with that and didn't have those kinds of things anymore, where we can say oh, Iowa hasn't ever played a ranked team, and we things like this, it would be hard to do away with that just for people who like history like myself.
Yeah. I was interested though, because Mitch, I guess this is more for you because you didn't grow up a Hawkeye fan. I guess you said weren't you a Minnesota fan growing up a little bit?
Minnesota fan as a kid, but I grew up in Eastern Iowa. Yeah.
I always felt if Iowa was ranked, that they'd have a crappy year, and if they weren't, they would have a good year. So I went back and looked in Kirk Ferentz's era last night. Yeah. And then I realized there really is no trend. So 5 Iowa teams started unranked, and this is just in the coaches poll, and then finished ranked. 3 of those were in the top 10. So I think that's where it comes from. That's 02, 03, and 15. 08 and 23 were the other ones where they unranked and finished ranked. Yeah. 5 times they started ranked and then finished out of the rankings. 05, 06, so coming after that 3-year stretch. Yeah. 10, which they had all the talent. They just, 16 and 24, so last year. Yeah. And then 4 times they finished. They started ranked, and they finished higher.
Yeah. That does seem to be the sentiment once the coaches poll came out earlier this week of good, hey, Iowa does better when there's low expectations, or I guess that's how it's framed. But listen, the big 2014, they were 7-6, got housed in the Tax Slayer Bowl. Rudock transfers, CJ gets elevated. They shift practices to morning, and it worked. It's not the exact parallel, but 8-5, you got a new quarterback. We'll see. We'll certainly know everything after Saturday. That's the important thing to remember in all this. So we'll do that.
That's pretty good data that you.
That's great data,
up, Mike.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
yeah.
If you put that in a post or something.
I'm going to do that. I wanted to do it here so you guys didn't see it first. But in my mind, I was there's got to be Iowa does it, but it's just 4, 5, and 5, and then 11 times they started and finished the season unranked.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, really interesting.
I do have for our season preview. I'll just give you a flash of this quick. I got some data points that we'll be rolling out for the season preview that paints a big picture about the Iowa offense the last few years and what could maybe be ahead. But we'll get to that on the 20th, I believe. That's our preview one? We'll do that. But we'll get through Saturday, then we'll get through Sunday back here on Eye on the Hawks. We'll recap everything again, all the highlights, all the reaction, things like that. We'll see you at Kinnick. If you see us, please say hi. It's been great to hear from folks as we grow this thing, getting into year 3. Gates open at 10. Practice starts at 11. It is going to be warm. Rebecca Copeland was in here earlier. We were going to have her do a forecast, but it's going to be warm. Hydrate, find your shade. We'll be back here. We're doing it Sunday morning, correct? Yeah. Sunday morning?
Yeah, we don't have a time yet, but
we'll figure it out. We'll let you know. Follow the socials. For Mike and Owen, I'm Mitch. See you at the stadium, and then see you back here Sunday on Eye on the Hawks.
At Depaco Credit Union, we value your health and happiness as much as your financial well-being. What's your dream? A trip? A new home? Or maybe it's a green electric bass guitar. No matter the goal, we're here to help you create a plan that helps you achieve it. Share your dreams with us, and we'll work with you to turn them into reality. Well-being is the key to a life worth loving. So when you think about yours, remember that Depaco can help you be well.